I serve on the Coburn Place board. I've been serving for about 1.5 years. I actually also was a resident of Coburn Place about 7 years ago. A friend of mine told me about Coburn Place when I was going through domestic violence myself, and I had never heard of them, and it was really a true blessing. I submitted an application, came in, gave them all my paperwork. We went through an interview process where they just asked me some questions and what I was going through, and then we waited. The great thing about waiting was that I was able to utilize some of the services during that time. So I was able to come in and do some of the therapeutic services that they offer, come in for some of the things like food, clothing, any of the things that did not relate to residential living and the actual facility. I could use some of those services during that time, and fortunately, it didn't end up being a 2 to 3 month wait. It ended up being about 1.5 months. First impressions for me was just peace and safety. The gates and the security and just feeling secure. I actually was in the apartment next door, so it's funny that we're speaking here. But yeah, it was just the peace and the safety, seeing my own place. That's the main thing that I was excited about. Before I arrived at Coburn Place, I did a lot of work in business. I had my own fitness studio, I had my own daycare. That was like the areas that were going well for me. But when I got into the relationship prior to arriving at Coburn Place, I kind of had to start over from scratch. I was starting kind of from rock bottom. The great thing about Coburn Place is the fact that it's holistic, and they help out in all different types of ways as far as spiritually with the gardens and the services that come in when it comes to therapy and when it comes to workshops and things like that. But most importantly, they help with the kids. I have 2 children. I had 2 children during my time here, and I realized that when you go through things like that, it affects your children, it affects your friends. I slept on my cousin's couch for some time, so it affected her as well. And I think that there are so many negative experiences that happen sometimes in children's lives when they're going through interpersonal relationship and domestic violence, to come and to have a handful of positive experiences that may be able to shift or balance those out makes a world of a difference. When I think about the children, I think specifically about my oldest son. He was about maybe 10 years old while he was here. And he's an artist now. He animates professionally. He has several paid gigs animating, and that's what he wants to do. And the reason why he animates, well, he was interested in art, and Coburn Place had a program here connected to Broad Ripple's art program where he was able to get some personal lessons and spend personal time with artists. And I really feel like that helped to cultivate that flame to where he's able to continue doing that and do that full time now. Of course, I took my time that I was here to heal, and I focused on healing. I focused on getting financially stable, rebuilding my business while I was right here in Coburn Place, which they had tons of resources for that. I like the fact that they had a whole long list of things that you could participate in throughout the day, especially if you didn't have anything to do or if you were in between jobs and things like that. But at the same time, they weren't required. And after they helped me to get into my place and I got into my place, I decided that I would want to come back after some time and serve. The first thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to come in and teach Zumba. So I came in and taught Zumba to the ladies prior to the pandemic, maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and just did something fun with them and inspired them, shared my story, shared that I was here, taught them a little bit about self-care through dance. And so I started there, and that's where I found out that there was space on the board to serve as well. One of the things that I really like about Coburn Place is that they have a diverse board. And so they have a board from many different walks. They have someone who was a resident on the board. They have people all throughout the community on the board to give all those different perspectives, because as a nonprofit organization, your vision and your goal is the community that you serve. And so it's really an honor for me to serve on the board of Coburn Place. It's been an open place to serve. They're open to bringing on new ideas. The individuals that serve there are all active in the community, and it's just been an amazing experience.
So Coburn Place offers compassionate support, safe housing choices for survivors of domestic violence and their children. One of the things that it says on your website, it says they specialize in fresh starts, letting survivors lead the way in creating their own paths forward. So tell me what you mean by that, survivors leading the way in their path forward.
At Coburn Place, we want to provide 4 milestones for families who are experiencing homelessness because of domestic violence. We want them to get safe and get into safe housing. We want them to build stability, be able to have time to heal, and then we want them to be able to create a fresh start. And when we think about a fresh start on a survivor's terms, we think, what do you want for your life? What's your vision? What's your dream? What brings you joy? And how can we wrap around and help you get to there?
Mm-hmm. So just the fact that everyone has their own dreams, their own plans for their life, kind of necessitates that the survivors lead the way.
Yeah,
right?
We might have a survivor who her goal is that she wants to get her high school equivalency. Mm-hmm. And we might have another survivor, Diamond, who just left Coburn Place a few months ago. Her dream, almost as soon as she moved in, was she wanted to buy a house.
Okay.
And so her fresh start leaving Coburn Place was purchasing a home for she and her kiddos.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting. We've talked about, last year, we know the Realtor Foundation is working to solve homelessness. Mm-hmm. Last year when we did this, we heard the stories, and when a lot of people think of homelessness, they think mental illness, the person on the street, addiction, things like that. My eyes were opened last year to the fact that a lot of domestic violence situations lead to homelessness because people either stay in the abusive relationship or they have nowhere to go when they leave it, right? Yeah. And so just the fact that you guys are able to offer that is so huge for that probably forgotten about contributing factor for homelessness, right? Yeah,
60% of women who are unhoused report being without housing because of domestic violence specifically. So we know that this is a leading cause of family homelessness. And we also know that experiencing homelessness because of domestic violence doesn't put you more at risk to experiencing homelessness again. And so it's not a chronic indicator that you are going to be without housing again and again in your life.
Yeah.
What it means is that you are without housing because of a really unique set of dangerous barriers. And being able to have organizations like the Realtor Foundation that are coming alongside survivors to help solve this problem is huge.
Yeah. What kinds of things are you guys working on now? As you look, we're here in August right now. You've got, 4 months going still this year. What's on your radar for, what you'd like to see happen next, how you would like to grow, or other programs you'd like to develop? What do you see as the future for Coburn Place?
Yeah, I think at Coburn Place, we are really focused on being survivor-led. And so we have a quick feedback loop to survivors saying, this is what we need, and us being able to create that. And right now that looks like a lot of mental health and well-being services, whether that's, we've started a new program called that are Peace Dinners, where they are these really beautiful community gatherings where we talk about how to be in healthy relationships, both romantically, but also how do I, leaving Coburn Place, engage in the world that is taking into account the kind of crisis state I've been living in, and then also helping me kind of regulate and be able to feel more grounded.
Sure.
And so we have a real emphasis on mental health and well-being, and that is really, I think, where we see a continued drive to build those programs.
Is that where it starts? Is that the on the journey to recovery, or the journey to getting in a safe situation? Do you think it starts with the mental health aspect?
Yeah, I think that, it starts with housing. I think before families have housing, it's when you're living in your car, it's really hard for you to think, wow, I really need to start going to the doctor regularly because I have this cough that won't go away, right? You're thinking, how am I going to have safety for my kids tonight and tomorrow night? What are we going to eat? Yeah. So I think once that housing is established, what we know is that families need more than that to be able to create this fresh start. So I think that's where I agree with you that the real transformation starts when it says, what does healing look like for you? Yeah. Is that with art classes? Is that with walking? Is that with focusing on your physical health? Or is that in reconnecting with family and friends and kind of building a support system for yourself? Yeah, sure. Well, that's really powerful stuff. And for people that want to know more about Coburn Place, people want to see what you guys are doing in the world, where do you suggest they connect with you? They can go to coburnplace.org. They can check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Our handle's just at Coburn Place. And they can stay to the Stream-a-thon today. Yeah. All of the money that's being raised today is doing incredible work all throughout our community and helping solve the problem of homelessness. And it's really cool to see.
Oh, that's cool. And Julie, I do want to just personally thank you for the work that you're doing. My family has been affected. I talked about this a little bit last year. My family's been affected by domestic violence, and we've lost a family member a few years ago. So from my family, thank you for all that you do. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
you.
having me.
We will be back with more Stream-a-thon coming up.